La donna è nobile, qual piuma al vento, lunga d'accenno e di pensiero.
My name is Rolando Villason. I am an opera singer, and I am a tenor. Being a tenor can provide the ultimate in job satisfaction. You get to sing some of the most beautiful music ever written in the world's greatest opera houses. Some people see the tenor's voice as the most captivating and demanding, but believe me, it takes dedication and a lot of hard work. This is the empty stage of the Royal Opera House, Covent Garden. Huge, isn't it? Walking onto it with the lights shining on you, knowing that you have to give absolutely your best, is a daunting prospect. Most of the greatest tenors in history have performed here. They have all received deafening applause from the audience out there. The tenor voice can move audiences and fill opera houses, and the great ones have become global superstars way beyond the confines of the theater. In this program, I want to explore the phenomenon of the tenor in all its facets. I'll be looking back at some of the legendary voices of the past, as well as at some of the amazing singers performing today. From Caruso, Wunderlich and Pavarotti, to Domingo, Flores and Kaufmann. But what is it that made them stand out from ordinary singers? What is it that gave these extraordinary tenors that star quality? Let's start with the basics. At the two extremes of the singing voice, we have the bass, all the way down there, and then up we have the soprano. This is the highest note of the soprano, this is the lowest note of the bass. In between we have baritones, altos and tenors. So, what is the range of the tenor? Here I go. Starting with that C. And that was the famous high C. In order to sing those high notes, the tenor needs to be in total control of his instrument. The high C, for most of us, is our highest note. The image of any tenor is more often than not associated with the quality of his high notes. For better or for worse, it's almost like a measure of his greatness.
Tenor has to come and deliver the good top high note, then everybody's going crazy.
Our high notes, if they're bad, are possibly screechy and possibly unattractive, but a tenor's high notes, if they're bad, are usually cracking or non-existent. I mean, the pressure, you know, they have to sing under pressure and they have to perform under pressure all the time.
Without high notes, it's very difficult to be a tenor. Many people even don't care about the rest, they just want that note. And if that note doesn't come right, they could even boo you, even though the rest was beautiful. You need to have good nerves to be able to sustain a career made of pressure.
One opera that really piles on the pressure for any tenor is Donizetti's comic masterpiece, La Fille du Régiment, the daughter of the regiment.
If you don't have those high notes secure, you will be crazy to sing that opera. You will be really, committing psychological suicide.
This aria, A mes amis, sung by the character Tonio, is known for its many high notes.
Amesami is an aria that requires very bright, very shiny, very luminous high notes.
Je vais marcher sous ma drapeau.
Where do you put that note? You don't know. In a piano, you know where the notes are. In the voice, it's somewhere there. But there's a space for that high note, where it comes shiny, loud, bright. And you have to put it in that position. And a little higher is wrong, a little lower is wrong, a little to the side is wrong. So there's a lot of control going on, but you have to sound and look like you're just having fun.
But let me tell you, it can't all be fun, because this part of the aria has an incredible 9 topsies.
Antonio is from Tyrol. That music is a yodel. So it's supposed to be Pur mau na que. It's his music from his country. Nowadays we have turned it into a Pur ma na laser beams, which people like. I don't think they will like anymore. Pur mau. They would, come on man, sing.
That shows what amazing things the human voice can do. But to be able to sing with this power and control, we need to use more than just our vocal cords.
All singing voices have different zones, and it is the job of the professional opera singer to make the transition from one zone to the other seamless, so that we keep the same color of voice from bottom to top. Let me demonstrate. In the tenor voice, there are 3 recognizable zones. The low zone, ma. There I am mostly using my chest resonance. The middle zone, ma. I am using a combination of head resonance and chest resonance. And then we go to the famous passaggio. 200 years ago, tenors used to sing his high notes with falsetto. Today we use our full voice. We bring the chest voice and we help it with the resonance of the head voice.
The passaggio is an Italian term used to describe the notes which act as a bridge between the chest voice and the head voice. Much of a tenor's training is to make this transition as smooth as possible. This famous aria by Donizetti presents a challenge for any tenor. It starts on an F, the beginning of the passaggio. And then it moves up, where I use my head resonance.
Baby
The full-throated tenor voice, as we know it today, is a relatively modern phenomenon. Synonymous with the hero or the great lover, it didn't quite start that way. To trace the evolution of the tenor voice, we need to go back all the way to the 18th century.
It's an interesting period for the tenor voice. In opera, one has to say that the tenor voice is relatively unimportant. The tenor does have a role, but it's often a more subsidiary role. Often the baddie in the opera is actually the tenor, not the romantic lover, as one might expect in modern opera.
Pastorello d'un povero armento pur dorme contento, pur dorme contento sotto l'ombra d'un fatto dall'oro.
In this aria by Handel, you can hear that he has written music that sits quite low in the voice, and the colors are darker than what we are used to. This was a typical use of the tenor in operas of the period.
Pur dorme contento sotto l'ombra d'un faggio d'allora.
The heroic male singers of the time were castratos, men who had been castrated before puberty to preserve the purity of their high notes.
These castrato singers had tremendous power. They were, in a sense, singing the tenor type of role 1 octave higher. And this is quite interesting. So these male voices had, all the thrill of the high notes of a soprano, but the physique of a man. It was capable of singing very florid, virtuosic music. And of course, these singers were the great superstars of their day.
Well, there are no castrati that we know of singing nowadays, but the closest we get to what they might have sounded like is when a man sings falsetto, known as a countertenor. Listen to the extraordinary voice of Christophe Dumont in this production of Handel's opera Giulio Cesare. But after Handel, composers such as Donizetti, Bellini and Rossini did begin to incorporate high notes for tenors in their operas. To tackle this, the tenors would use a falsetto voice. When was the modern tenor born? When was that moment when he started to use other parts of his body to sing the way we tenors sing today?
Well, the origins of it are a little bit mysterious, but in the early 1830s, you get Gilbert Louis Duprez, the great French tenor, coming to Italy, studying with Donizetti and so on, and he discovers that he can extend this chest sound much higher than was previously done. We mark it with his performance in 1837 of William Tell in Paris.
The performance was a sensation, as the tenor Roberto Alagna explains.
Gilbert Duprez invente le contrut de poitrine, en pleine voix. Et Gilbert Duprez va révolutionner complètement le chant. Il va révolutionner, pas le chant, la voix de ténor spécialement, grâce à ces notes très puissantes, très mâles, très viriles. Le public va être en extase devant cette prouesse héroïque, j'ai envie de dire, et époustouflante, qui est d'émettre des sons d'une telle puissance à une telle hauteur.